year ago. Season one, we're in season five, right? Season one, I was talking big, right? And people said, Calvin, is there any topic you won't do at Soul Thursday? And I'm from Texas, so I got to talk big. I'm like, man, I'll do anything. It ain't if I'll do it, it's how, right? And that's when and then last year, someone said, well, Calvin, you need to do a show on the change. I'm like, what change? They said, you need to do a show on menopause. And I was like, oh. And I started getting nervous, y'all. And I don't get nervous, but I started getting nervous. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. So I talked to Dr. Rhonda, and then I talked to Dr. Mary Fleming, and they said, you know what, Calvin, I got you. But I really, really began to talk to some people. Last year around May, Oprah came out with in her magazine a whole magazine dedicated to menopause. So you can look it up. It's the May 2024. And then from talking to Dr. Mary, she says, well, Calvin, order this book. And I began to kind of look into the topic. But more specifically, I began to ask myself the question, Calvin, why is this important for men? And I began to kind of think for the men out there who are listening or who are going to listen to the replay, why should you care? Well, as you can imagine, this is not just a topic about women for women. It's about emotional impact. It's about intimacy and communication. It's about the impact on your relationship and your family with various health health concerns. At the bottom line, if you are unaware of how this affects your family or your partner, you may be at risk of becoming a source of stress rather than a form of support. As men, we can already kind of get a bad rap for being disconnected, not being understanding. Well, the way I see it is, life is complicated enough, relationships are complicated enough. And if this is an opportunity for something that your significant other, your family member, may be experiencing from some 5 to 10 years, I think it's a good time to kind of pay attention and see what's going on and how you can be a form of support. So I'm excited to get started tonight. I got one more track. Did I get started already? I guess I got started early. I guess I got to flow with it then. Anyway, I'm going to introduce our speakers, and then we're going to do some trivia. And Lady J, you got to tell us what the people going to win when they win the trivia. Let me see. To make sure you get Lady J off mute. But we got to do trivia first. So if it's your first time, I'm going to let you know how it works. Here at Soul Thursdays, we always like to start with some form of an icebreaker. And all that really means is we want to get your mind working. But you get a chance to win. So, Jay, talk to me. Are you there? Uh-oh, she got to fix her microphone. I knew it.
I'm here. I'm
Oh, you
here.
got it?
I
Okay.
got
So Jay, one of the things we've been doing is we've been working on um, publishers and people who are interested in publishing. One of the things I'm excited about is that the people who show up to these intellectual type conversations, these mindful, holistic conversations, are typically the leaders, they're the thinkers, and they also often are thinking about publishing. So you just launched a new service. Tell us about your new service that it's actually at $49 if you can buy it, but tell us the person that wins trivia tonight gets to win one of those. Tell us about your new service.
It's called Author Success Assessment. So then I will look at whatever you have so far, your book content, your book cover, see what's going on with your printing, your publishing, and then it's an assessment to let you know, are you ready for the next step? And then you'll also get a blueprint for taking those next steps because it can be very frustrating and there's a lot of exaggerations and lies and manipulation out there. So this is designed to get you out of that spiral and get you on to the next move, to the next step. Because
Awesome.
when you write, you got something to say. You don't want it locked up.
Yes, indeed. So, Jay, go ahead and drop in the chat for if they don't win, they can still book a session with you. So, drop it in the chat how they can book a session so they can see what they get to win tonight. But before I start the trivia, and it's going to be on topic, on theme, we're going to have trivia questions about the change. But before I do, I want to read the bios of our speakers who have been so gracious in being here tonight. I want to start with Dr. Mary E. Fleming. She is a board certified OB/GYN and health equity advocate. She's a graduate of Vanderbilt University and Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. She specializes in women's health, menopause care, and reducing health disparities. She's currently serving under she currently focused on serving underserved communities while leading Reed Scholars for Health Equity Initiatives. Next up, Dr. Rhonda Maddox is America's go to psychiatrist. She is a board certified mental health expert, speaker, and health policy advocate. She's known for her media and Capitol Hill. She's known in media and Capitol Hill. She empowers communities by addressing not only menopause mental health impact, but also by advocating for equitable healthcare access and stigma while reducing, well, I'm struggling tonight, stigma reduction in women's health. I'm going to get it right. Next up, Heather Michelle. Heather Michelle is a certified personal trainer and menopause wellness coach. She empowers women through fitness, nutrition, and holistic health.
Okay.
As a gym and salon owner, she offers realistic, tailored approaches to managing not only menopause symptoms, but in promoting your strength, confidence, and overall well being. OMG, I made it through it. So we're gonna get it right tonight. Jay, be ready to edit this because wherever the part where my words don't seem like the work, just edit that out, make me sound good. So I got 13 trivia questions, and we're gonna go for how about the first person who makes it to 4? Yes, the first person who gets a score of 4. Y'all ready?
All right.
First question: true or false? Officially, menopause begins when a woman hasn't had a menstrual period for 6 consecutive months. True or false? Oh, yeah, you got to type your question in the chat. I see a few answers. It actually is false. The official answer is 12 consecutive months. Who got false first, Jay?
Samara Briggs. She came out the gate.
Yes, indeed. So let's go to the next question. Question number 2: what is the average age of a woman to reach menopause in the United States? The average
Ooh.
age for a woman to reach menopause in the United States. Ooh, a lot coming in. Let's
Mm.
see. Some are getting close. Some are getting close. Let me see if I see the answer. Oh, I saw the answer. The official answer is 51 years old. I
Okay.
saw Miss Williams had 51, but did anybody get it before her?
Mm-mm.
Ah, she's the first
Antonia
person.
would Antonia
No,
asked.
Tonya got it
Antonia
first.
asked.
No, Tamita got it. Ah,
Antonia.
Adams got it.
Mhm.
I think Adams is the first person to get it.
Yes.
Okay, question number 3. Winner is the first person to get the 4. Question number 3. What stage comes before menopause and often includes irregular periods and hormonal fluctuations? It is perimenopause. I think that's the way you say it, Dr. Rhonda. Well, y'all gonna help my Texas accent tonight. Um,
Okay. Do they get credit if they just said Perry?
uh, I don't know, Jay. You get the call.
Yes.
All
Who was
right.
that? Tamika.
Yes, that was Tamika.
I guess that's a
And
short
that's
name.
Samara or
Okay.
Samara. Hmm.
Okay. So Jay, what's the score?
2-1.
2-1. Okay. Next question. This is multiple choice. Which of the following is not a common symptom of menopause? Is it hot flashes, brain fog, hair growth on head, mood swings? Which is not? Hair growth is the official answer. Jay, who got that one first?
Leslie Matthews.
Leslie. Okay. True or false? Hot flashes can only occur during the daytime. That is false. Who got it first?
Leslie Williams. No, Layla Williams.
Layla? Okay. Next question. What hormone primarily decreases during menopause, leading to most symptoms? The correct answer is estrogen.
Ooh, Samara. She's got 3.
She got
Uh-oh.
3. Uh oh,
She's
she's
got
ready.
3.
Okay, let's see if she gets the win. True or false? Hormone replacement therapy is unsafe for all women. I'm gonna let Dr. Mary um, hip us on this, but the official trivia answer is false. Who got false first?
Samara.
Is is
It's
that four?
Samara. That's
She
4.
got four. Awesome. Well, we
That's
have a
4.
winner. So Jay, put in the chat of how um, I'll email you Tamara's information, but put in the chat so they can see that author's consultation, the consultation that you do.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, I am excited. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started with Heather Michelle, and then we're going to bring Dr. Mary and Dr. Rhonda, and we're just going to kind of do like a mini panel. I don't know. I'm just feeling that tonight. So I want to get started with Heather Michelle. Hello, how you doing? Let's get you unmuted.
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Now you were a little quiet on the trivia. What's up with that? I mean, were you just, being feeling charitable, or what's going on there?
Well, I knew all the answers, so I didn't want to give them away.
Oh, oh, I like that. She wanted y'all to win. That's what I'm going to take it. So, I'm excited that I connected with you because, I've been planning this show for over a year. And then when I begin to connect with you, I'm like, wait a minute, this is really, really cool. A person that actually focuses on physical health and menopause. Do you mind telling people a little bit about your story, a little bit about yourself, and even how you got into this topic?
Yeah. So I started my journey. My daughter's 24, so it's been a long time since I've been doing this. So my journey just started. I was a hairdresser. After that, I decided that I wanted way more than just being a hairdresser. And I lost weight. I was 205 pounds. I lost 55 pounds in a year. And then I just decided I wanted to do more, and I fell in love with fitness. So that's how my fitness background got into play. And then just with coaching, I wanted so much more for coaching. I wanted to not just train people and just have them come into the gym and then just train them and just have them leave. I wanted my gym to be more than that. So I was like, I need to find something that works for me. So I found a certification that was hand in hand with nutrition. It was hand in hand with the workouts. And I was like, I fell in love with it right away. And when I started talking to my members about menopause and how I'm getting certified, I actually didn't realize how many people were going through all this, because it's like if you don't talk about it, then, people don't know to come to you. So now that I have the certification, it's just been a blessing to be able to, with the knowledge, and let them know just little things here and there in their life that it just could be something tweak. You could tweak an exercise. You could show them a modification. You could tell them, like nutrition. And it's just little things like that, like you wouldn't think about on a daily basis.
Thanks for sharing that. And what I love about your story is that here at Soul Thursday, we really, really, really value entrepreneurs, right? And it's just so cool. And you don't just have a background in like fitness, you also are a entrepreneur. Tell us a little bit about your journey because I like to get into I'm nosy, right? Tell us about how in the world did you go from doing hair to being a salon owner and then being a gym owner and then being a fitness. Okay, you got to tell us more, Heather. How in the world? Tell us about your journey.
All right. So I still am a hairdresser. So that is something that no matter what, and us ladies understand that you're never going to leave your stylist. Depending on, how long you've been with your stylist, she is like the only person who knows anything besides your best friend. She probably knows more than your best friend. So I still do hair. I do have a hair salon. And it's a suite. I do it, just part-time. But fitness has always been something that has always been my passion. And I don't know, like I just go excited, like talking about it. It's just been something that like literally has mentally helped me through all of my trials and errors. I was borderline anorexia. I went through a mental abusive relationship. I had a bad divorce. And fitness has always been something that has always been hand in hand. When I was having a good day, I worked out. When I was having a bad day, I worked out. And like I tell everybody, it's not just on the outside, it is, it's on the inside. So mentally, fitness has helped me. So I wanted to do that more full time. And that's like how the whole concept of just staying with hair, like part time, but doing fitness full time, because I literally, my schedule goes around my fitness. Like I don't miss a day. I work out every single day, even if it's just taking a walk for 30 minutes. I just have to do something every single day. So I just know that um, it's just been a part of my daily life. And I try to, instill that and tell people that, don't think of fitness as something that you have to do. Find something that you truly love about fitness, yoga, Zumba, Pilates. Just try to find something just to stay active and it'll literally help you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I love, the part of your story where you talk about going from a salon owner to a gym owner and just kind of navigating, right? And, and I've always kind of saw, fitness as being like great for like stress and things like that. But, I just really, really love how you've been able to do, and it's a new term Jay and I kind of coined. We call it the healing in plain sight. And it's the thing where you take all of your skills, all of your pain, all of your whatever that's going on, and you just do it. So I love that. Side question: what do you think, being a salon owner, what business skill do you think kind of help you when you begin to kind of open your gym and launch your fitness center?
Communication,
Oh,
understanding. Um, Again, you're going to get a lot of people that are going to walk through your door and they're going to be, they're not going to know you. Again, some of my members do know me, but they're going to go based off of, when you're in a hair salon and people see you, they're going to go more based off of your appearance and what you look like. You might not be able to do hair to save your life until you sit into the chair, you're not going to know. But when it comes to fitness, it's more communication and knowledge.
awesome. I love that answer. When you said communication, I was just like, okay. I'm always talking about communication. So when you said that, it actually caught me off guard, but I like it. Let's talk about, exercise and menopause. What are some of the biggest misconceptions you hear out there? Or I guess in being a stylist and, a fitness coach, what are some of the things you hear women talking about?
Oh, it's a lot of misconceptions. Should women lift weights? I always hear that. Yes, it is super important for women to stay active and lift weights. Um, you should really lift 3 to 4 times a week, especially as we get older, our body changes and we lose muscle mass. So it is super important to just lifting weights. Um, Also, cardio. People always feel that cardio is a bad thing. Over excessive cardio, yes. But if you're just taking a walk, getting at least 5,000 to 10,000 steps a day, is super important as well. And as far as like the benefits, just don't try to like make it a structure where, like if you're doing cardio one day, you can lift weights the next day, but, just really sticking to some kind of plan where it's at least 3 to 4 times a week of lifting weights and at least getting those steps in.
Thank you for that. A nice fitness plan. Now, do you do like coaching or consultations, anything like that? Because I can only imagine, right? If a person wasn't already, let's say, that gym rat person, and now they got life changes going on. I mean, do you kind of coach people? Or you're more fitness? Like, where are you located? So, in case if people want to check out your gym.
Yes. So I'm actually located in Hamilton, New Jersey, on Route 33. I do coaching through Zoom as well. So I have clients that don't live, in the state. So I do coaching through Zoom. So that's another way to reach out to me, and I do it in person as well.
Awesome. So what should people expect? Let's say they're kind of curious. They're like, hey, my doctor, I heard that, this exercise and fitness is kind of important. What should they expect when they do a consultation with you?
So when I do a consultation, I basically sit there and ask them, specific questions depending on their goal. Everybody has a different goal. Um, so again, as far as like the doctor, obviously the doctor is going to be, a little bit higher up than me. but I'm going to help them with the nutrition part and the exercise part. Again, exercise part plays a big key in you know as well as nutrition. So as much as people hate hearing that word nutrition, your nutrition is way up here, versus like your workout. Just like it's like a regular person who doesn't have menopause, or for a man, like no matter what it is, your nutrition is always going to be a key. But for us, there's certain things, people don't realize, like just caffeine. You should be having at least 400 milligrams of caffeine a day. Most people don't do that. Most people go over that, and that can trigger your hot flashes, and again, it's not going to stop your hot flashes, but it can help. So if you're, drinking like 5 or 6 cups of coffee a day and you're wondering why you're having a lot of hot flashes, one of those could be why. But again, I will go over nutrition plan with them, things that will be beneficial for them. I never tell anybody, you can't eat anything. That is never my goal. But I can give you, things that will help you stay on track with that. If you want to eat a cake, go ahead and eat cake, but I want you to be, moderation as well. And then, I give them a workout plan. So I also have workout plans that are through my Facebook page. So like if you're not, with me in my gym and you can't physically work out with me, I actually have workouts on my Facebook page where it's a private group and I put workouts on there and they can work out on their own. I do coaching, I check on you. So it's accountability every single day where I check on you, making sure you're getting your steps in. And then I go over nutrition where they journal their nutrition. I check it weekly. That way, if there needs to be some kind of, tweaking and, things that they need to do.
Yes, yes. I'm getting excited because, the thing that I, initially noticed about Weight Watchers is they threw in that accountability. And it's so, so, so important, right? And as you were kind of mentioning the things, I'm like, oh, this is so awesome because it's already hard. It's already going to be tough. But how cool is it to have somebody to take that journey with you? There's a few questions coming up in the chat.
Yes.
Go ahead and drop in the chat how they can contact you. I'm hearing people saying, well, how much does it cost? Where do I follow you? And things like that. Drop that information in the chat. Hang loose. And what we're going to do is after, we do the quick panel with Dr. Mary and Dr. Rhonda, then we're going to come back for some group Q&A. So feel free to drop in the chat how people can contact you. We're all about networking here. So, and also, hey, if you want to get that book, ready, because I know you got a story to tell, make sure you connect with Jay. So I am excited. So thank you for being here tonight. Hold tight, and we'll be back with you shortly. So, I just get excited when I begin to talk to entrepreneurs. I don't know who I was talking to recently, but we were talking about the journey of entrepreneurs and how, it's never a straight line. And when I sit down with Heather initially and I was just talking about her story, I'm like, wait a minute, you went from hairdresser to fitness and then you own the gym. And I was like, I love it. I love it. I love it. As some people would say, the world is weird. The world is strange. We need it now more than ever. Uh, Rhonda, I sent you unmute, so you should see a pop up that allows you to unmute. And let's see, Mary too. I just sent you one. Okay. Yep, I can hear you. Okay, Dr. Maddox. I'm gonna send it to you again. There it is. Yes, yes, yes. I think it's so cool, and I didn't realize fitness was even a thing until I started pulling this show together. So I don't know, Dr. Fleming, Dr. Maddox, what do you think about some of the things Heather was saying?
Well, can we first just say hello to the people? Hi,
Oh
people.
yeah, say hello because I'm excited. Go ahead.
And just thank you, Calvin, for convening this, right? This is a conversation that has a long time we haven't been able to talk about it. We didn't get to talk to our mamas about it. And so I'm super excited to be here and be able to have open, honest, vulnerable conversation with the panelists and the guests. Other thing is, I always appreciate you because you say we can bring a drink. So I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm going to toast my bourbon to you today. Appreciate that.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and then to double down on what Heather just said, so I think it's important. You talk about exercise and movement, which is important, and you say women should lift weights. Absolutely. But I think people think, oh, lift weights, like we're over here bodybuilding. You don't, it's weight bearing exercise, right? It can be resistance training. It's just making sure we're, like you said, building muscle. And so don't get intimidated by, you don't even have to go to the gym, right? Like Kevin said, you can do things at home. There's lots of things that you can do, but it's just important to stay stay moving, making sure we're doing muscle building exercises. So don't get intimidated by those things. And there's lots of ways to approach it, right? And I think it's really important if you are, like she said, new to it, get help, right? We don't have to do any of this by ourselves. That's why we're here. We don't have to do any of this by ourselves. And you figure out what the best plan for you going forward. How do you incorporate it into your day? What can you do for a few minutes in the day, in the morning, a few minutes in the evening? How do you exercise with your friends, going on a walk through the park on the weekends? There's lots of things that you can double up, right? How do you make it a social and a fitness thing? There's lots of things you can do. So I just want to say that it is very approachable. But we absolutely want to do muscle building exercise, but don't think it's, we don't have to be bodybuilders. So,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Thanks for that. And um, Dr. Rhonda, next up. Anything you want to fuss at me about? Am I in trouble? So,
I'm
Listen,
really
fussing.
enjoying this conversation.
yeah, go ahead and do your intro too. And then what I got a question after you go. I got a question for the both of you, and I just want to kind of get us warmed up a little bit. But one thing Dr. Mary said, and she's like, "Hey, we can talk about it." I've been talking to some people. They're like, "Oh, should we talk about it? We should not talk about it. It's no big deal, whatever." When we open after you do your intro, I want to kind of talk about that. So be thinking about that, Dr. Mary, because I think we should kind of let people know why this conversation is so important. Dr. Rhonda, what's up? Tell us who you are, what you do, and I know you got so much. And are you going to do some comedy tonight? I just need to know
A
because I need to
little
get
bit,
ready.
just a
Okay,
little
okay,
bit.
okay. Go ahead.
So I'm Dr. Rhonda Maddox. I am a psychiatrist. When I was first invited to talk about menopause by someone, in the Black church, if you are a doctor in physiology, they want you to talk about rabbit holes or something. And so you're always invited to talk about stuff that sometimes you have absolutely no idea about. But I was invited to talk about menopause, and I immediately thought, well, I don't know anything about menopause. And then I backtracked and I thought, many times I'm the person who's telling people that they have menopause, because they will come to me because they have some concentration impairment, some brain fog, because they're tired, because they're snappy, they're depressed, they're having panic attacks, and we'll go through the evaluations, we'll do the lab workups, and then we'll settle on, you're at this stage of the game, you're not having cycles anymore. And when they realize, oh, it's menopause, and so it's interesting. And I hadn't really thought about the fact that, I'm talking to them about the fact that they can't sleep. And so I'm frequently going after PTSD as a reason why they can't sleep. And then I will discover, in fact, no, I'm waking up drenched in sweat, and that's why I can't sleep. And so I was kind of getting into menopause on accident, if you will. It wasn't something I intended to get into, but it was the population that I work with. I work with mostly Black women, and Black women actually develop menopause, perimenopausal symptoms in menopause earlier than white women. And so when I first got into it, that literature was not well established. And I thought, surely they're not menopausal, but it looks like they're menopausal. So when the literature confirmed what I had been seeing for decades, I thought, finally, I get this. But for me, based on my age now, I would say I went from the theme song in my head was all, and you guys are gonna trip on this, but if you're old enough, you know who Climax is. And Climax wrote the song, they were an all women's group, I think from Oakland, California, led by Bernadette, who I think was a drummer. And so really big in the 80s and 90s, I think. And they wrote this song, meeting in the ladies' room and the men all pause. And so the men all pause was like my theme song. I have been walking through life with that song playing in my head my entire life, right? And so, I think I got it going on. And as I got older, I'm feeling the vibe, right? The men all pause. And then, people are, and then you go from the men all pause to menopause, and then hot girl summer takes on a whole new meaning. Like,
Mhm.
and so, those types of things. But when you think about it, we don't talk about sex. And so if you think about your first conversation, like who taught you about sex? Did your parents teach you about sex? Many times they didn't teach you about sex. And then you go on, and it's one of those taboo topics, particularly if you ground it in the South where I am, like people don't talk about sex. And so when they start having difficulty with vaginal lubrication, they don't talk about it. And so as you're entering this stage of life, which is supposed to be enjoying sexual freedom, enjoying yourself, finally not being confined, well, oh my gosh, then you start going through the change, and if you don't have a good relationship with your doctor, you're not talking to your doctor about vaginal dryness, and maybe they're not asking about it. But because of the work that I do and the fact that some of my medications can impact your sex drive, I'm always asking about sex, to their annoyance probably. And so that's how I stumbled upon, oh my gosh, I don't want you to think I'm weird, but it's hurting more, or discomfort. And so I stumbled upon menopause, and then I became a fierce champion, and I'm talking about it a lot. And thank you, Tamita Brockington. Oh my God, where are you located? I don't know if this is for me, but I am in Arkansas and Georgia, and you can find me at drrondamaddox.me or on LinkedIn. Dr. Rhonda Maddox is my social handle on Instagram, LinkedIn, and what have you. And I'm on drrondamaddox.com as well. Thanks for asking, and me not having to do a low grade pitch.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that backdrop, and I love that part of your story, Dr. Rhonda, because we've talked about all kinds of stuff. You're going to be back in March when we do a mental health show, and we're going to be talking about, I forget what we're going to talk about, but I got excited.
Anxiety.
Yes, we're going to be talking about anxiety and all this building resilience. So, looking forward to that. But, when I was like, hey, I need to find somebody, and you were like, I can do that. So, thank you for being here, and thank you for really seeing that pattern. Dr. Mary, tell us about why this conversation is so, so important. Let's go ahead and pretend, like I always joke here at Soul Thursdays, there's two groups. There's the 10% that be like, I call them the talented folks. They be like, oh my God, this is just not even required, not needed. And then you got the other 10%, they be like, I just don't want to talk about it. I'm kind of nervous, whatever. Pretend I'm not here. I'll be on the fly on the wall. I'm mostly just nosy, right? But, why is this topic so important, Dr. Mary?
Oh, it's a laundry list, right? So I'm gonna start by saying, so people are very chatty in the chat, which is great. But how I usually start my patient interactions is, what questions can I answer for you today, right? And so if anybody has questions for us, please put them in the chat as we go, because we're not going to be able to get to everything, but we definitely want to be able to answer as many things as we can for you today. Um, so two, kind of what I said before, it is something that we just haven't been taught, we haven't been socialized to talk about with our parents, not even with our friends. Like, it's becoming a new conversation. And as Dr. Rhonda just said, even when I'm 40, I forget, I don't know, 44,
21
but
plus.
Yeah, one of those.
my mama says don't count the change, 40 something. Uh, but and so when I first started having things, and I was like, they were like, "Oh, you're too young," and I was like, "No," I was like, I knew enough to know I wasn't too young. It was like people do dismiss it, like, "Oh, you can't be old enough, right? I technically, when you're in this little window, I'm still young enough to have a baby, but old enough to go through menopause, right? And when you're in that little window, kind of nothing makes sense. And so I think it is important for us to just, one, be able to have open, honest conversations with each other as peers, with our physicians, as we're talking about, is this normal? Is it not? And what we realize is, everything can be normal or not, right? We have to kind of dive in and pilfer through and kind of see what's going on. I think the other very important thing, even if you mentioned about Weight Watchers earlier and accountability, but it's just also knowing that we're not crazy. And that's one thing that we have to do, because we're going through all these changes, and like you see in a lot of these publications, right? Especially in this age range, we're career chasing, we're raising children, we're raising our parents, we're doing all of these things, and we're having all of this internal turmoil. And it's like, am I crazy or not? And you're not. No, we're not crazy. This is where we are. And not only are you not crazy, there's help for this. We can fix it, right? And so just, it takes a little work. Sometimes it's a little it's a little piecemeal. We gotta ebb and flow. We gotta trial and error. But even like Dr. Rhonda was saying, people come in and like, oh, I like to ask about sex. I was like, are we having sex or not? And then if the answer is yes, but yes, is it good or no? Okay, yes, we're good. All right. No, why not? And then we can work through that. If we're not having sex, are we not having sex because we don't want to have sex? Are we not having sex because it hurts? Right. And then we can get through that. Right. And then if it's not having sex because we want to, it's like, do we like our partner or not? And then I got to go to Dr. Rhonda. Like, we need to work on that. But we have to be able to go through that and be able to be open enough to have those conversations, because if we need to be, we're young, we need to have a full life. And there's plenty of avenues to work on making these different things better. And we also ask for a little patience as physicians, because like I said, it is a trial and error, because the symptoms that you have that you might start having at 37, depending on where you start with this, might be very different from the symptoms you have at 52. So we got to evolve. We got to keep working on the approach and the treatment, and the compassion and the vulnerabilities to kind of get through it. So any which way, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm going to come back to you with another question after Dr. Rhonda. So be thinking about this question, because I want to just start with the basics. What exactly is happening to a woman's body during menopause? So that's the next question for you, Dr. Fleming. Dr. Rhonda, you mentioned brain fog. I love your story and how you're sitting there, you're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with all other kind of mental health type things. Tell us about brain fog and the type of patients you see, and when they come to you, what are some of the issues they're seeing that kind of, make you think menopause? Tell us about brain fog.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, many times people think if you go see a psychiatrist, you must be crazy. But my patients are like me. They're like you. Like, my patients are regular super women who have the weight of the world on their shoulders. They're mostly Black women. And you know how we are as Black women. We carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We make it look easy. We are the go-to. We are the friend. We are the person everybody comes to. We're all of that, right? And so when I see them, I mean, I am seeing people that I would go out for coffee with that are just your regular super women who have their poop together, who have probably had some rejection, who've had a lot of trauma, but you can't tell it by looking at them. They look immaculate. They look amazing. They are doing the thing, and they're taking care of somebody's child. They're caretaking for the grandmother. Somebody's in jail and they got their child, but they're doing it, and they're successful women. So my population is not one where you look at them and you're like, oh my gosh, they're crazy or anything like that. They are people who are investing in themselves. So when I talk to them, I come from a place of dignity, of humanity, of girl, what's going on with you now? Okay, okay. And not quite like that, but it's just, I want you to understand, regular, not regular people, your friends. And a lot of times people come to me because of sleep. So my background is I'm an integrative behavioral health psychiatrist, which means I normally work in family medicine clinics. And I normally am talking about that. And so folks who would not ordinarily go see a psychiatrist, but if they can't sleep, will talk to somebody, and then the doc will say, hey, go see her, and they're willing to talk to me. So the brain fog, for women who are on here, fellas, you may not get this, but for women who are on here, do you know there is a time right before your cycles, many people right before your cycles, where particularly if you eat high amounts of carbs, a lot of carbs, it's like this mental fog, this cognition, this thinking slowly, this a little bit of irritability, this I can't focus just right, this I don't have my poop together, and please don't call on me because my answers may be rambling on. Ladies, I can't see your faces, but you understand where I'm coming from. So that's what I mean when I say mental fog. And I don't know what to tell men that that it's like, because I don't know what you guys do, but just think about a time when you're not on your A game, and the answers are coming slower and you ramble and it just doesn't make sense. And then you find you're saying, do you understand what I'm saying? And you don't know if they understand, and you think they may think you're an idiot afterwards. That's what I mean. Ladies,
Well,
can I get that? And you throw in some extra clarification if you have a better, more concise answer.
Thank you for sharing that, and we're going to circle back with some questions. And the next question for you, Dr. Ron, if you think about it, we get to talk about sex. I heard something about pain. I was talking to this Jamaican person. They were saying, "Yeah, we just kept a bottle of olive oil next to the bed." I'm like, "What? A bottle of olive oil next to the bed, right?" And I'm like, I don't know what they did with the olive oil, but we coming back and we're gonna talk about olive oil next. Dr. Mary.
We got
Um,
better options, but okay, we're not talking about that right now.
Wait, no, you cannot, no. Forgive
so
me,
so
Dr.
so
Fleming,
so not olive
but
oil. I mean,
no,
what if
we
I'm
gotta
vegan
talk about
though?
the olive oil. First of all, we
Okay.
need to know, were they praying with the olive oil? Were they anointing? Were they anointing their organs?
I just heard stuff about dipping. That's all I heard. It said,
Oh,
I don't know. Well,
I just couldn't let you pass on that, okay?
oh
Carry
yeah,
on, Dr.
I'm not.
I'm
You
sorry
see,
for that.
I don't know the part
we
where I'm
gonna
supposed to
fix it.
stop talking, right? So anyway, let me go. Let me go to Dr. Mary. I'm just gonna.
We're gonna put a
put my-
pin in that. We're gonna come back to that.
Yes, we'll
We
come
got
back to
better.
that. So Dr. Mary, let's get into the changes in a woman's body. What exactly happens to a woman's body during menopause? Break down the role of estrogen. Was it prostrogen, whatever that is, and testosterone?
Progesterone.
Yeah, that thing.
You're so cute. So hopefully we'll answer your question and get to a few of the questions in the chat at the same time. So let's go back a little bit to when we were in the womb, right? And so that's kind of where those of us who are born with ovaries and or uterus, our story begins. So for those who are born with ovaries, we are born with those ovaries and all of the eggs that we will ever produce at that time, right? And so our ovaries are also responsible for producing estrogen. As we age, we have cycles every month. Most of us who are not on, there's caveats to this, right? So if you're not on birth control, you're don't have ovulation issues. That's the thing. In a perfect world, once you start having a menstrual cycle, you're ovulating every month, you're producing an egg, right? And as we get into this era, this 40 plus era, those eggs begin to dwindle. We stop having regular menstrual cycles. We may have irregular bleeding. Our estrogen starts to decline. We might start having hot flashes and all these other symptoms that we're going to talk about in the mix of this. But that's kind of our natural reproductive history, if you will. And that is why, as we get to this age and the estrogen starts to decrease, then now the estrogen is mostly the cause of our symptoms during this time. So our other reproductive hormones, like you're talking about, our progesterone and our testosterone also decline. And they also affect things during this period, but estrogen is truly the major culprit. Somebody asked about do men have this too. So there's something called andropause. It's men's testosterone declines as well, but it's not the same as ours for a lot of reasons because men can still produce testosterone throughout their life. So they're not, those who again born with testicles are not built with a finite supply. So they can continue to produce their testosterone throughout their life. And everybody's different, like we're all individuals. So we know that there are men who have babies at 80, right? Not all of them, but some of them do. That's because they can continue to produce testosterone, they can continue to make viable sperm, they can continue to have it, right? So it's a different evolution for them than for us. Somebody also asked about medical education in this point. And I think it's the same point that we started off. People just didn't want to talk about it. The reality is, sad as it's to say, women are still not equal. It's where we are, right? We know we are not seen as equal in multiple um, portions of our country and of the world. And so, what does that mean? It looks like there's less research in the area. There's less literature in the area. There's less money going into medications and pharmaceutical development in the area. Even now that we're talking about it more and it's more highlighted, I think the numbers are like it's still like less than 1 to 2% of dollars are going into women's health research, right? It's abysmal. And so because we don't have that type of research and literature, then we don't have the type of interventions that are comparable to like most of the most common comparison is the Viagra, right? You can basically go buy Viagra off the street. Nobody cares. It's $8, right? Nobody cares. We go to try to buy estrogen, like, we're over here looking at coupons trying to get it. So, it's just a difference. We're getting better. So we're having conversations like this. There's more venture capital money in the area. There's more NIH money in the area. And so I think it will get better, but we're still at a deficit, and so we'll get there. But because of that, it is also underrepresented in education across the board, medical education, nursing education, I think. So we'll get better. I think the other thing, and to double down on Dr. Wanda's point, we talk about our reproductive health. And so I also think part of our shortcomings is we often diminish women to our reproductive organs, right? And we are whole people, and we function as whole people, and estrogen affects our whole person, right? And so that's why it's going to affect not just our ability to procreate and have babies and our menstrual cycles, but it affects our mood, it affects our concentration, it affects our joint, it affects all of these things. And that's why we have such a broad base of symptoms when we're going through the change, if you will, is because our estrogen affects our whole person, and we are not just our ovaries and our uterus, right? And so I think when you really conceptualize that, you're like, okay, this is my whole person is changing, and I have to continue to be compassionate with myself and figure out what's happening now. And it's just kind of part of the process. And then the last thing I'll mention before I turn it back over, somebody talked about surgical menopause. And so this goes back to your original question, Calvin. So there's a natural progression. We talked about being born with ovaries, eggs stop being produced, estrogen going down, right? So that's a natural progression into this average age of menopause in America being 51, right? There are also people who have to have surgery to take out their ovaries for one reason or the other. So they have ovarian cysts, they have ovarian cancer, they have horrible endometriosis, they have scarring in their pelvis. There's a whole list, right? And so when you take out the ovaries, you are in menopause that day. It's not a window. It's that day you're into menopause. And so a lot of times, especially if you're a younger woman and you have what we call surgical menopause, then we'll start hormone replacement therapy immediately, so you don't have such a stark transition. But not everybody gets, I mean, again, medicine is medicine. Not everybody gets afforded that option. So those people might have a rougher transition because it's abrupt. They don't have the gift of uh, the gradual progression. So anyway, I'll stop.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I just had tons of questions. Audience, be thinking about your questions. Pearl, we see your questions. And Tamika, Jay, help me keep up with those questions, because when we come back and bring Heather back, we're going to address some of the audience questions. So help me track those questions. Audience, type your questions in the chat. Let's talk about olive oil, Dr. Rhonda, and who better than you to talk about? Okay, well, let me slow down.
Olive oil is hilarious.
So you're a therapist, right? So, people show up, they like, hey, I think I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I just need somebody to talk to. You see Black women. How does the topic of intimacy comes up in therapy? And like, what's going on? I mean, and I think I'm not going to say the word again, olive oil, but anyway, olive oil. So, okay, tell me from your perspective, Dr. Rhonda, what is going on with intimacy and sex during menopause?
So I'm a psychiatrist, which means I write the medications. And because I'm writing medications, and I realize that it can decrease some medicines increase your sex drive, and some medicines decrease your sex drive. So I'm always very aware that when I am working with a woman who's married or whatever, I'm not trying to disrupt their relationship. I don't want the fella coming after me, or whoever partner coming after me saying, "Hey, what you doing?" So I'm intentional about asking these questions. And I love what Dr. Fleming said. I feel like I would love for you to drop in the chat how you ask those questions, or for us to just have a conversation, because, asking about, are you having sex, those types of things. I love your approach to it, because it really kind of sets people at ease, because people are anxious about talking about sex. There's so many, we've attached so much morality to sex that people are really uncomfortable sometimes being just telling you what's really going on. So I ask about it because sometimes people are coming in and they're not having sex. And the reason they may not be having sex may be because they may be having sex, but it may be abusive to where their partner, though they're, is forcing stuff on them. They may shy away from sex because they've in fact been traumatized, have a sexual abuse history. There may be a lot of morality or religious upbringing over it. And so I'm delving into that and learning a lot about them. But then there's also if you have bipolar disorder, your sex drive can go through the roof. And then it can get you to a place to where you're really being indiscriminate and promiscuous and all over the place, and cheating on your partner, those types of things. So I am asking about sex because sometimes it will signal certain mental conditions that are going on, and other times it will signal that I need to dial back my medication. Now, when you were the olive oil in the evangelical persuasion of Christianity, there is a thing is laying on of hands where people use olive oil to pray for you. So when you said that, and I was like, give me some specificity, let me understand. I was being funny, but I wasn't trying to be funny. I wanted to know, are we dousing the organs down? And is that serving as a lubricant, or are they inviting the Lord in to to bless them, or what, but I'll have to defer to Dr. Fleming on the safety of that. I know what I say about lubricants, but I have never once addressed olive oil, and so I'm going to have to punt to her on that one.
Yeah, I love her initial response. She says we have better options, right? So the code word olive oil is yes for a lubricant. Dr. Fleming, tell us about the reduction of estrogen and how the reduction of estrogen changes sex and why lubricants become very important.
So, and I think that was a question in the chat too. So going back to this whole body person. So estrogen can decrease your, it works to decrease the blood flow to the mucous membrane. So you might have dryness other places too. You might have dryness in your eyes. You might have dryness in your mouth, right? These are all mucous membranes. Most commonly, we talk about vaginal dryness when we talk about menopause, because we're in the reproductive. Okay? So estrogen helps to bring blood flow to the organs, and it also helps with elasticity, right? And so we think about, I always try to figure out how deep you want me to go into this. And I'm gonna pause and I'm about to say after that.
I've seen a baby
So,
born, so feel free.
but anyway, so the vagina is a potential space, if you will, right? And so if the potential space is not used, it just like a rubber band, right? If we don't work on the rubber band every once in a while, it's going to get dry, it's going to get brittle, it's going to break, right? So the vagina is the same way. So one, it needs to be used, however you want to use it, needs to be used. I know. I see, Dr. Rhonda, I was trying.
With
She's
it,
so
girl.
PG. I love it. Who
It
has this?
needs,
However you
You
want to
have
use it,
space. See who
right?
you are.
you want, so,
Know
but
what you do.
it needs to be used. And as our estrogen decreases and our natural lubrication decreases, then sometimes we need to add it back. So the first thing I say is we need moisturization. And as Black women, we know we need to put some lotion on. So just like you put lotion on your arms and your legs and your elbows, then you can use a vaginal moisturizer. And that's just for moisturization. So that we're keeping that rubber band from getting brittle. That's all we're doing. So, and then there's plenty of them over the counter. It says vaginal moisturizer. So again, just like you're putting on your lotion in the morning, you put on your vaginal moisturizer. You don't have to do it every day, a few times a week, just to keep the area moisturized, right? Then that is separate and distinct from lubrication. Lubrication is used during sexual intercourse. Again, however you're engaging, you want to use a lubrication. And it depends on where you are. So everybody needs different things. So historically, where olive oil and other oils come in is because they were relatively available products. You have olive oil at home, you have coconut oil at home, you have Crisco at home. People use all of those things. Now, if it's working for you, go for it. That's what you got. That's what you got. However, oil-based products after a while tend to be drying. Like mineral oil is one of those two. So if after you use it and the oil part goes away, it actually dries out your tissue. So it's not the best product, but it's not necessarily horrible, right? They're natural based products. It's not gonna hurt you, if you will, but they're not the best and they're not gonna have the most long lasting effect. Then we think about our water-based products. So those are your typical KY jellies, right? And there's a whole bunch of those too. KY jellies are always safe because they're water-based, not gonna hurt anything. Your body absorbs the moisture. It's great, but they don't necessarily have staying power. But they are best if we're using condoms because we're trying to protect STDs because we need to do that, right? We're just gonna put that blanket statement there, right? So water-based lubricants are best when you're using condoms. Silicone-based products, so those are your Uber loops, and there's some other things like that. Those are going to give you your best slippage, if you will. Right? And so those are going to have the same power, depending. This is all depending on what you're doing and your activity level. So you have to gauge that based on what your actual needs are. But those are kind of the differences between vaginal moisturizers, which I say everybody, right? And again, you can go from your basic, like a Replens is gonna be like putting on your regular Vaseline lotion type things. And then there are more expensive, like your hyaluronic acid, right? That's gonna be you're trying to be in the cosmetic
Say that
vein
again.
of these
I
types
didn't
of
hear what you said.
hyaluronic acid. So you see that on
No,
like
I'm
it's
sorry.
a
After you said
facial
that,
thing.
you said that's going to be and then you gave
It's
examples.
like if you're trying to be fancy with it, like you can just use lotion. You can go buy the fancy $50 thing, right? So right, it's just your range with it. And also what, some people need a little bit more aggressive things than others. So everyday moisturizer lotion, water-based lubricant, silicone lubricant, depending on where you need. And then, like I said, if all you got is olive oil, coconut oil, or Crisco, then I'm not condoning that, but do what.
Okay, so what I heard, because my mind just selective, I heard number one is water based, that's KY jelly. Number two
Can't go wrong.
is the silicone, and if you don't have anything else, keep a bottle of olive oil in the kitchen,
No,
right?
no, see, that's
And
not what
it
I
say
said. I
organic.
see. That's not exactly what I said. That's not exactly.
OMG. Audience, we're going to give you a chance to ask your questions because, this is the warm up as we begin to talk to our canned questions because we want to set a foundation. So let's talk about what we're going to do is go to the audience. Audience, we're going to let you unmute. And when we unmute, we always ask for people to be respectful, be kind and be patient, right? And people come from different backgrounds, but I'm going to remove the button so you guys can unmute yourself. You can raise your hands, you can type your question, whatever works for you. Tamika and Lady J is going to help me fill those questions. But let's do some follow up. I'm gonna add Heather to the screen so we can do the Q&A. Starting with Heather. Heather, give some people some thoughts on how they can follow you. You probably dropped it in the chat, but for the recording, how they can follow you and how they can check you out. And then Dr. Rhonda, you do the same. And then Dr. Mary, you do the same. And then what we're going to do is open up and we're going to have fun with the audience. So audience, now is your turn to ask your question. And if you typed it and Tamika missed it, just copy and paste it, put it back in the chat. Go ahead, Heather.
So
Anything you want to say to the people that you didn't get a chance to say earlier? Go ahead.
yeah, so I put my Instagram on there. It's evolve underscore through THRU underscore fitness. And then I also dropped my Facebook page on there as well.
Awesome, awesome. Dr. Rhonda, so you see patients in Arkansas or where else?
So I see patients in Arkansas, but I also do coaching. And my coaching is to help people tell their stories. And so I help them monetize their message and their method and help them pivot from pain to profits, from pain to purpose with profit. Meaning we are frequently invited to tell our stories, but we are uncomfortable asking for money. And so we will give up our weekends, we will give up our time, and then we will find that we are resenting people because we're not making money and our family is resenting us because we're not around. And so if you are asking me to share my time with you on a weekend, understand that and you may say, why would you charge so much? And you're only talking for an hour. I have to think about it. I have to put it together. If you want me to do slides, if it's about something that I don't normally talk about, that's not in my warehouse, and you are taking time from my family. I am charging you so you won't want me to come. And if you do want me to come, you know you need to pay for it. And I say that because my husband drove 12 hours
Uh-oh, is
to
she
a
getting ready to
place.
tell y'all about
I mean,
the
he
chicken
drove
plate?
12 hours to a place and he spoke and he was great. And they gave us a hot dog without chili cheese or relish. It just had mustard on it, baby.
Y'all know
And
it was a
a
church.
hamburger. And the hamburger did not have mayo, Miracle Whip, or anything. And I was hot as a firecracker because he had delivered his best work. And that was the day that I said, no, 12, and that was 12 hours one way. Do you hear me? Baby, I charge. I do. I charge. That upset me. I charge and I add that to the, I charge for that. But I teach you how to charge for your time and get over yourself, get over your money issues, understand your value, understand the value that you're adding, understand how to market your message and your method so that you can have some passive streams of income. You deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve it. You're worth it. And what you are giving, people will take what you said and they'll go back and they'll market and they'll be making thousands of dollars and won't even credit you and say it came from you.
I love it. And that is recovering first lady, y'all. You heard she said on the weekend, you work on the weekend, and then you go and pray for these people, and they don't want to even give you a chicken sandwich. You know, Dr. Mary.
Chili on it at least, y'all. They could have put some
Listen,
chili on it.
Dr. Mary, you know,
oh
I'm
Lord.
excited about Dr. Mary because she does so much, y'all. I mean, she got so many degrees, so much, and I'm excited about working with you on your consulting arm. Tell me how people can follow you. Tell me about Read Scholars and tell us about some of the awesome work you're doing.
You know, I'm gonna be like, I don't be doing nothing. No, but but first, look, the first item on my to-do list is gonna be to make an appointment with Dr. Rhonda and Miss Heather because it sounds like this needs to be a lovely little trio that keeps going. So we're gonna keep this going. And so the best way to follow me is on LinkedIn because then you can kind of see all the things that I do. So to keep it short, so Calvin said I'm an OBGYN. So I practice in a travel capacity. So right now my travel assignment is in Louisville, Kentucky, which is where I'm from, and I'm working on one in Pennsylvania. So I don't have a traditional practice, if you will. But one of the reasons I do that is to give me the freedom and flexibility to be able to travel and do other things. And so for those of you who were on here early on, Calvin was like, "Where are you today?" I'm in Mexico, right? Because why not, right? It's cold at home, and this is where I wanted to be. So here we are. And so practicing in that way gives me a lot of flexibility to be able to do that. Read Scholars is an organization that is a collective of physicians and dentists who are all individually and collectively working towards health equity. So we all completed a fellowship program housed in the Harvard School of Public Health, which was a 1-year post training fellowship, and everybody's working in, some people like me, but a lot of people in clinical work, but also in government, like Ursa Corey for the previous administrations, other than the one we have now, in public health departments, FQHCs. I'm doing a whole lot of acronyms, but you get the point. All over the place, in medicine and in rural health. And then currently, I'm also a director of a health equity leadership program that's also in the Harvard School of Public Health. That's an application program. So for anybody who's in healthcare broadly, who's interested in getting more information around health equity, you can apply. It's a 4-day program. It's all virtual. We get down to the nitty gritty of health equity and how do we get here in this country, and where do we go from there? Calvin, I was trying to remember, how did we actually meet? I don't even think it was on any of these things. It might have been on the entrepreneurial realm, right? So I do some other entrepreneurial stuff as well. So we like to keep it interesting and see what's next. And I'm super excited to see what's next on the agenda. So great
Yeah.
conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. And it was because we had Vanderbilt in common. That's actually,
Yeah, so that I
you
was like,
know,
yeah, that might have been it.
how we originally connected. So, audience, now's your time for questions. So, go ahead and raise your hand, unmute yourself, put your question in the chat. So, also, Dr. Mary, I'm going to come back with you because I want to talk about disparities. I love the word disparity because it's one of the reasons why I started Soul Thursday. Give you guys a backdrop. I begin to look around our community and I begin to realize that no matter where you look, And we started 5 years ago before this administration, right? And we begin, and I said, tell people, no matter where you look, if it's entrepreneurship, if it's medicine, if it's, birth rate, our numbers are always less. And it's not because of what, propaganda says. It's because, there are institutional things in place that are intentionally blocking our health, blocking our progress, and burning down our buildings. So I began to talk about any topic that had disparity. So that's another reason why I wanted to connect with Dr. Fleming, is because she essentially focuses on health disparities, especially when it comes to women. So I love that topic. So let's go ahead and go to the audience. And Dr. Fleming, we're going to come back with you and we're going to talk about some health disparity. What questions do we have from the audience? I've seen a picture come on. Let me go to the thing. Unmute you. Let me do the thing so I can unmute you, let you unmute yourself. Okay. I just enabled so you can unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, raise your hand. I see Yvette. I see you there, Yvette. I'm seeing an unmute button. I see Toya. You may have some questions. Turn on your camera. Talk to us. What you got, Yvette?
Well, I had put up on the chat about, well, first of all, hello, everyone. I'm coming from Texas. And hi, I'm actually in menopause, okay? And I've been in menopause for 5 years, and I'm 57. And in the 5 years of menopause, everything was good. And then just recently, I've started with the night sweats, but not really like wet at night, but warm. And so it wakes me up through the middle of the night. I do have a little bit of brain fog. I've been trying to find and research and read on the things that I need to do. I went to my doctor, and I have a Black physician, and the way that she came to me was, there's so many things, and so what do you think would be good for you? And I was like, well, I don't know. And I was hoping that you could help me, but there's so many products out there, from HRT or it's just so much. And I couldn't wrap my mind around it on what to do. What can I do to help myself? And I just feel like I'm just lost in this process because, and then I also heard that I had 5 more years to take something, because after 10 years, you should not take anything. So if you can help me understand these pieces, that would be awesome. you know? So I'm just kind of lost on what I should do on sleep, on being warm at night. That would really help. And I exercise. I eat good. I'm not really a carb person, but I do well, I think.
Dr. Fleming and I will tag team on that. Dr. Fleming, you want to go first?
I can. So, because I think I saw your question earlier. So let me start at the end and go back. So
Okay.
the recommendation, and somebody also said, do you recommend hormone replacement therapy? So me as an individual, absolutely. I got on a patch right now. They're gonna pry my patch off. I'm wearing it. I'm gonna rock this thing out, right?
Okay.
Is the patch for everybody? Is hormone replacement therapy for everybody? It is not. But it is viable. I think it is safe for most people. And it does require a conversation with your physician to see if it's right. What you're saying about the 10 years. So the way the studies are now, it's recommended that if you're going to start hormone replacement therapy, that you start it within 10 years after your last period, the current recommendation. Now, that is still a guideline. So if it's after the 10-year mark, your other risk factors are low, it seems like you're a safe person to start on. It's still a conversation, but the guardrails, if you will, are the recommendations are to start within the 10 years after your last menstrual period. And so for
Right.
those of you who are listening to her comments, and she says she was in menopause, right? So it means so we talked about that average age of menopause is 51. And so if you were listening to Calvin's trivia, menopause technically starts 1 year after your last menstrual period, right? So that's the year. And then she's saying that she did her
I
year. Now
started at 52.
Right. Now she's 5 years past that. So that she's full-fledged in it. And so that's where we are. So if we get to 10 years, then we have to decide if the benefits are worth the risk to start it. If you've already started it, there is no technical date when you have to stop it, right? You have to just keep reassessing, is the medicine helping you more than it could potentially harm you? And that's with any medication. So that's kind of that conversation. Are there things that can help your being hot at night other than hormone replacement? Absolutely, there are. There are other options. And that's a longer conversation that we had to do today. But there are other things you could consider if you didn't want to do hormone replacement for whatever reason. But the going back to what happens after menopause and the estrogen going down, and we talked about vasomotor symptoms. Those are your hot flashes, your night sweats, and those type of things. So those happen because of the decrease in estrogen. That's why we get hot and have the hot flashes and all of those type of things. So there are different ways to medicate that, if you will, whether it's hormones or not. But there are options, and you are in the window where you can still do things. Somebody put in there are natural products that do help. But again, to me, it's always a trial and error. Start with where you're comfortable, see how it works, and then if it works, it's great. And if it doesn't work, then we go on to something else. And the other thing I was going to say, any type of relationship, whether it's a physician relationship, personal trainer relationship, it's gotta work for you. I gotta be on the same page. I gotta vibe. So if you're with somebody who's not vibing with you and is not helping you make that decision in a collaborative way, it might be time to see somebody else.
Okay, so one more question. So the creams and all these new things that they have out, are those, do they really work? I mean,
I
the
probably need more
topicals,
information by cream. So there's estrogen cream, which is great. So it's a topical thing, which means you just put it on again, kind of like I was talking about the moisturizers and
right?
the lotions. Estrogen cream is kind of like that. So it's gonna bring blood supply back, help build up the muscles. We're talking about your pelvic floor is a big muscle, right? So we didn't talk about Kegels yet, right? But all of that, we
Right.
want to build up the pelvic floor. So estrogen cream is great. Now, if we get talking about other creams, depends on what we're using them for. Our moisturizer creams is just keeping things moisturized. Estrogen cream is helping with blood flow and muscle conditioning, if you will. And then our lubricants are different things, but those are usually not, we don't consider, I don't. So it just depends. So I think it's a whole conversation, right? So we'd have to kind of dive in deeper.
Right.
Yes,
Okay,
indeed. Thank you,
thank
Yvette.
you.
And I'm going to go to Andrea next. Andrea, I just sent you the unmute button. Sorry, you were unmuted and I accidentally muted you. So, Andrea, we're going to go next. And I want to summarize from Yvette. Yvette, thanks for the questions. You know, for people who are wondering, what is this whole hormone replacement? I was reading in the Oprah magazine, right, in a book that Dr. Fleming sent me. And I didn't realize, and this, I tend to read and I read in between the lines. And when I begin to realize, I'm like, and Dr. Fleming, I want to come back to you and talk about what's happening with Black women specifically with this topic. I was like, wait a minute. There's a whole thing called hormone replacement, techniques and stuff. But what happened was I was discovering, I'm like, oh, you get this drop in estrogen, your body starts changing, things start hurting, and all of a sudden, some people just deal with it, or they don't know that they have options. And hormone replacement therapy is supposed to, in my observations, kind of slow down the process or, make it just less, severe, right? So instead of having zero estrogen, I'm making that up, it just kind of slowly, declines. And what I began to realize, I'm like, wow, if we're not talking about it, then we don't even know that there's options. So some of the questions of the creams and it's natural and stuff like that. And I love what Dr. Fleming says. She says it all depends, right? Some things are experimental, some things work. But one thing I really, really don't want is people to suffer in silence. So thank you, Yvette, for your question. Andrea, go ahead with your question.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I am in Texas. I'm a Jamaican. I'm not sure where the olive oil thing came from, but different topic there.
Outside.
Olive oil.
I don't have a question really, but I just wanted to just say this, that I suffered for years with going through this menopause thing, and I had posted earlier in the chat, I went through 4 doctors and they didn't know what was going well, I don't know if they didn't know, but they tried to help, but they could not really help me the way I needed to be helped until I found my 5th doctor, which is only like 5 months ago. I started the hormone replacement therapy back in September of last year, and my job required me to think. I'm an analyst, and I have to think, and analyze a lot of stuff. So I need my mind to be right. And I couldn't sleep at night. I have to wake up and go to work in the morning, and lots of sleep, lots of rest. I was confused. I was missing the work. I was missing things. I was calling everybody all kind of name. I just went way off. And having that patch that the doctor talked about, and the first 2 weeks that I was able to sleep, and I woke up that morning, I went to work, and I was just jumping and clapping my hands, singing hallelujah is like golden to me. Be able to go to bed, close my eyes, and have rest. Having support and be able to talk and find that doctor who understand what you're going through and get help, and just have a circle of women who are gonna support you, and knowing that there is help out there. And so, as what doctor was saying, there's help out there. And what I went through for the last 5 years, and now I can really sleep and focus and be happy and smile again. To me, that's the best thing ever. I just want to say that.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Andrea, for sharing such an awesome and vulnerable story. Shout out to Jamaica. I was giving Jamaica a hard time. It was actually Haiti. Them Haiti folks, I'm told. Oh,
No.
I just switched. I'm sorry. I'm just have to blame Texas where I'm from. Y'all Texas people, y'all stay away from that olive oil. So okay, what other question we got, Jay? Tamika, what question we have? Jay.
Well, Dr. Rhonda, why don't you jump back in with sleep to piggyback on that?
Exactly. Okay. So first off, when they're talking to you about sleep, you want to go into, have you started any new medications? Because many times when you go in, you're talking about anxiety, you're talking about depression, and and people will many times, well-meaning, will put you on an antidepressant. And understand this, some antidepressants can make your thoughts race, particularly if you have anxiety or bipolar disorder in your family, or maybe you're predisposed to bipolar disorder and you don't know it. And so you can get on Prozac and Wellbutrin and Cymbalta and Effexor, and these are medicines that you tend to think, oh my gosh, this is going to make me better. And then you realize this is making me worse. I'm not sleeping. I'm more irritable. I'm more cranky. And you may have something else going on. So I look at the medicines you're on first to see if they are worsening that. The other piece is many of us are magnesium deficient. And so magnesium is needed for your bone health, it's needed for your mind health, it's needed for your sleep health. And so I will add a magnesium supplement, which will help with headaches, which will help with sleep. And that's really helpful. And of course, can help with bone health. And the way you get magnesium in the natural, of course, is your green leafy vegetables, your avocados, your cashews. Just Google magnesium rich foods. But you know how we eat processed foods. And so go to a magnesium supplement. And it's certainly, many people will go to melatonin. And I'm just going to tell you, if you're taking a 2.5 milligram tablet of melatonin, or a 5 milligram tablet of melatonin, you're probably not going to have anything happen. I take 2 10 milligram tablets. Now, I don't want this to be considered medical advice that you should take without consulting your physician, but I do want you to understand that, saying I took 5 milligrams of melatonin, honey, that's like a 5-year-old dose as far as I'm concerned. It might not do anything for you. So, but be aware that taking NyQuil or Tylenol PM can be really damaging to your liver. And so don't just let that be your fallback for that piece. And then finally, I'm just going to say, for the brain cognition, I started with high protein, low carb diet. If you are drinking a lot of sodas, a lot of chips, and that kind of stuff, it worsens your fog. And listen, I know what I'm talking about. Even though I know what I'm talking about, I will have a brownie for breakfast. If I have cereal for breakfast or a brownie for breakfast, my nurse already knows, because it takes me forever to get my notes done. I sound like a rambling fool sometimes, and I really just cannot do high carbs, and it made me look like I had ADHD in school. And so, eggs, well, I know eggs cost $12 right now, but but used to be eggs, something that's high protein, low carb with magnesium can be really helpful to you. And I'll throw in a little bit of zinc as well. And that's my time.
Thank you, Dr. Rhonda, for just bringing us back to the science. I love science because I'm an engineer, but I also love that you balance it very well with, I mean, I was, I'll tell that story later.
Oh,
Th
yeah,
th
great.
th Thank you for just keeping us so grounded. Any other questions? Oh, Rhonda had a question. Thank you for raising your hand, Rhonda. I'm gonna unmute you. Actually, I actually muted you. Rhonda, unmute yourself and then ask a question. Audience, this is your chance. We're going to go for another 10, 15 minutes. But this is your opportunity to ask questions because we talk about it because we want to get everybody on the same page. But go ahead, Rhonda.
Hello, everyone. I am, unfortunately, I'm trying not to sound like a lunatic or sound like I'm crazy, which is something we're talking about, but I'm confused because I don't know if what stage of menopause I'm at. I am 55. I just turned 55 in November, but I've also all my life been battling PCOS. So I've already, or for the most of my life, I've been fighting having, a full beard. So I'm like, okay, is this a PCOS beard, or is this a menopausal beard? I'm having all of the other symptoms that we've been talking about tonight as well. And I'm just like, I just last week um finally found a clinician, and I actually found her through MIDI Health. She was the one that is telling me to get off of off of the birth control pill that I take, which was a low dose, and she prescribed me a birth control pill to take, Lidale, and she prescribed me some patches to start wearing to help me because of the fact that um I'm gaining and losing weight like crazy, and I've been going through that all my life, and I've tried numerous things, but between the hair loss and the beard and the weight gains and the brain fog, which is really bad, I don't even know what stage I'm at. Nobody's ever done blood work to tell me where if I was in menopause or perimenopause. I just went to my OBGYN in January. Years ago, he told me I was in menopause. This year, when I went back, after I told him I had breakthrough bleeding, because with the birth control pills that I do take, the week that normally you would take to have a cycle, my doctor always told me not to take them. So now, like I said, I know this all seems a bunch. It sounds crazy, but nobody's ever really treated me, and I'm trying to get treatment now because I'm tired of dealing with all of this stuff.
Thank you.
I'm just getting very frustrated because I'm like, where am I at? And I need help. So that's why I'm asking these questions that I'm asking.
Thank you, Rhonda, for sharing your story and being vulnerable and being here in this, what we call safe space, this safe space. Dr. Fleming, you want to kind of take a stab at that? I'm pretty sure you've seen a lot of patients. You've seen the runaround. You've seen some of these nuances. What are your thoughts, Dr. Fleming?
So that's first of all, hugs. You're not crazy. Right. Just yeah. Second, hopefully you found my information in the chat. We can have a whole one-on-one. We can debrief this and we can go back with questions when you go back to your doctor. Happy to do that with you. So we can do that. But for the sake of the conversation, few things. You are a little bit more complicated than most, right? So I'm on what I said PCOS spectrum, right? As well. And so it does complicate things because so we talk about menopause being a year from your last period. For many of us who are on the PCOS spectrum, we ain't never had no regular period, right? We might have gone a year, 2, 3 years without a period when we were 25, right? We wasn't in menopause. So it's a whole thing. And so then to add to that, kind of to your point with the medication, most of us have been on some kind of hormonal regulation of our periods since then. So again, because we're in a safe space, I've had an IUD for 15 years. I haven't had a cycle for 15 years, right? That's normal when you're on hormonal regulation. So, but I'm not going to have a period indicator of when I go through menopause. And so for many people on the piece, whether they're on medication or not, you don't have a period indicator. So that's 1 and 2. 3, when we talk about testing, there is a hormone value that we usually use called FSH to figure out if you're in menopause or not. However, it's not fail-proof because it fluctuates when we're going through this transition. So it could go up, it could go down, it could go up, it could go down. What we usually say is if you're past this year transition and your hormone level is elevated to a certain degree, then we think you're on the other side. But again, for those of us who are, kind of in the middle, it makes it difficult. And so then it's how do you treat, said people on these medications with their regular cycles, and how do you know if we're on the other side or not? And to your point, we talk about PCOS, it is plagued with what we call hyperandrogenism. So that's when she's talking about the hair growth. The hair growth, when your trivia question was like, what is menopause hair growth on your head? No. You get hair loss up here, but hair growth down here and, other places too. So, it's confusing as our symptoms change and our hormones, again, for those of us on the PCOS spectrum, might be a little bit different from the quote unquote normal spectrum, if you will. So I say all to say, I think you have a complex case. I think you are not crazy. We can figure out how to muster through it. Just email me, that whatever, message me, and we'll figure it out together.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Rhonda, for sharing your story, and thank you, Dr. Fleming, for being here for the fam. I love what we're seeing here, and I'm just kind of speechless. I get a little emotional sometimes, but what I love is connecting people. What I love is being the answer. We've been doing this thing here at Soul Thursday for 5 years, and some people are like, why are you doing that? My people, me and my friends, we've been had natural hair for 5 years. I'm like, because it ain't for you. It's about the people. It's about the people who got the questions. It's about, the people who are taking that journey. And I've lived across these states that we call United. And I've learned that in Atlanta, you may be in a place of abundance, but when you fly out to the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, you're in a desert. And what we do here at Soul Thursday is we try to create a space that no matter where you are, no matter what you're going through, you can have and connect with people that's like-minded. Some people call it intellectual barbecue. Other people call it kicking back with friends. As Dr. Fleming would say, a place where she can go be intellectual and drink her good Kentucky bourbon. You see, there's a space for these things, and I've always been a person that said, you ain't got to be highfalutin. You ain't got to be dressed a certain way. People are like, well, I ain't been oppressed. I'm like, well, why are you using GRE, LSTAT words in a casual conversation if you hadn't been oppressed? You see, there's all kinds of things going on in our society, and I just want to just thank the speakers tonight for being here. We're going to take one more question, and then what I'm going to do is wrap up and tell you guys about what's next at Soul Thursday. Any additional questions? So I do have the show. I brought it up because I was wondering what me and Dr. Rhonda are going to talk about in March during Mental Health Month. It's going to be Dr. Rhonda Maddox, episode on overcoming trauma, anxiety, PTSD, and building emotional resilience. So be looking for an email from Soul Thursday and Mental Health Month, March. Next week, we're going to be covering a show on special education, Black boys, autism, anxiety, ADHD, and what we need to do to protect our Black boys. As you may discover, I'm somewhat autistic. I'm a little, as they say, bright and quirky. If you hadn't picked it up, then, it's okay. But, we create a space here for the neurodivergent, which means no matter if you want to watch video, you want to listen to the audio replay, or you want to participate in a casual conversation. Here at Soul Thursday, we want to create access for you. Dr. Fleming, I want to kind of close out on this message of talking about disparities. Tell us how this complicated topic that's underfunded, under-researched, no equity for women in our society is even worse when it comes to Black women. How is this topic affecting Black women? I've heard all kinds of stuff. Maybe Black women go through it later, they go through it sooner, or they get less support. Tell us through your work in awareness on disparities. That means we don't have the support that we need to get the information we need. Tell us, Dr. Fleming, what's happening with disparities in Black women's health?
What do you want to end, Kevin? We're supposed to land on end on an uplifting note. But I mean, the reality is, we know because we've lived it. The nature of this country is that we have always been undervalued, undervoiced, underserved. And so, and I think Dr. Rhonda was talking about this earlier, we also carry so much weight, not just from our everyday lives, but from the lives of our mamas and our sisters from generations before, and the weight of, I'm not a mother, but for the weight of those of us who are mothers, our aunties, our godmothers of our children to come in front of us, right? And so all of that weight, you just mentioned oppression, all of that oppression plays out into our DNA, and it has. And so our DNA is
Mm.
housing this trauma from generations before in the anticipation of what our children are going to have in front of us. And so that weight translates into chronic stress. And so chronic stress translates into earlier and more difficult menopause. It translates into higher levels of obesity, higher levels of diabetes. Somebody mentioned blood pressure. We haven't gotten there. All of that happens because we are carrying this weight every day. All of us are. It doesn't matter, like you said, where we were born on the spectrum of class or wealth or whatever, it doesn't matter. We all have this weight. In the statistics this plays across the spectrum when we talk about maternal mortality and morbidity, because that is the most stark one, that we are 3 times as likely to die during childbirth, right, than our counterparts. And this is because of the same spectrum of disparities, because we carry this weight before our pregnancies, during our pregnancies, and after. And so I think the pregnant, there's hope, right? We have these conversations. There are things that we can do as a community to support each other, to hold ourselves accountable, to give ourselves grace. We have to ask for help. We don't have to do this by ourselves. There are, it's 2020, we got medicine. We got to take it sometimes, right? We got to go see our therapist, right? We got to do these things. We got to go to church and pray, whatever you got to do, right? Heather said, we got to go exercise every day, right? These are things we got to do. And it's all of these things are, everybody's different. So what your combination of those things is individual, but all of those are important in the course of your day to day. And so there are things that we can do. We are a resilient people, right? We look good, we feel good, we can do good. Just gotta go out there and do it. So here we are.
Thank you, Dr. Fleming. And you reminded when we did our first episode, it was on maternal mortality, and as you talk about that statistic. And at first I didn't understand it, but I had lost my sister when she was 20. She left behind a 4-month-old child. And I didn't realize until we did our episode that she was in that range of, after giving birth, right? Some, 12 months, some people say 24 months after giving birth. But I didn't realize how complicated this thing was. But what really simplified it for me is when I began to realize that the bias in hospitals or the bias within nurses, they're like, oh, that's a Black woman, and she says she's in pain after giving birth. Well, she doesn't need a pain medicine, right? Because she's a Black woman. She's tougher than everybody else, right? And I'm like, whoa, why would you not give that woman pain medicine because your bias says that she's tougher than everybody else? And we begin to realize that all of that stuff is in our society, and it's not only in our society, it's been programmed into our AI. I begin to realize, whoa, we got work to do. I want to say thank you to Dr. Maddox for being here tonight and allowing me to be myself and you to be yourself. I'm so excited. You got to tell people about your stand-up because, you didn't mention that. Thank you, Heather Michelle, for just really, giving us a holistic perspective of how there's opportunity, there's medicine, and there's also fitness. And we'll be in touch with you soon because I love what you're doing with entrepreneurship. And Dr. Mary Fleming, I think this may be your 3rd time on the show, but it's always a blessing. Thank you, even though that you flew out somewhere, that you decided to hang out with us here at Soul Thursdays. I want to say thank you guys. And next week will be the show on special education and Black boys. Next month, we begin to cover the topic of Black mental health. And I don't even know what we're going to talk about other than Dr. Rhonda. So thank you guys. So I'm going to close this out and play some of my dad's favorite music. So thank you guys for hanging out. Look forward to talking to you soon. I'm going to play for another 10, 15 minutes.